Samurai 8 is dead.
It's back. The three first.
And Kubo killed it.
Okay, so I'm gonna start this off here, right?
All right.
Kishimoto took an L.
Oh, we thought it couldn't be done. He was the king. I'm not making fun of him, by the way. I respect him, but like.
Okay, so
I was waiting for them to be like, I don't respect.
This video is going to be a 50-50. The 50 of us jokingly roasting him.
50 of us.
And the other 50 so us getting our thoughts on it and what we feel like Kishimoto should have done to prevent
I'm giving
this.
thoughts too.
So,
have I been put in the jokingly roast category? Because I'm still giving my thoughts.
Yeah, bit of both, right?
What the
fuck? Okay. So let me just start off by saying, and I've said this before in our Samurai 8 stream, but I truly believe the reason why it didn't succeed as well as it did was because Kishimoto's writing style is still stuck in his 90s Jump days.
Insert running in the 90s here.
He had, because I genuinely believe Samurai 8, if Kishimoto pulled a Togashi, had a Naruto, like Togashi had a Yu Yu Hakusho, and then they, how he made Hunter x Hunter and now he made Samurai 8. I truly believe that if he waited maybe in the early 2000s, late 90s.
Yeah, David, you got it.
Samurai 8 probably could have, it probably could have succeeded. But the biggest issue was that Kishimoto didn't really get with the times, if that makes sense. He started off Samurai 8 started off extremely slow. It didn't really have a full goal until maybe chapter 15, 20. The characters were okay for what they were, but he focused too much. He had a vision. He just couldn't bring it out fast enough. And I think and we talked about this before, is that the best way to survive and now jump, you're gonna have to get to things quickly, My Hero Academia, quick. Black Clover,
interesting question
quick.
for you, Thurman. Here, so this reminds me a bit of, you remember how Oda talked about how One Piece wouldn't have survived if it started to today?
Mm-hmm. I was just going to bring that up.
Yeah, so I wonder if it's almost not fair to judge it like this, because I agree with you that he didn't transfer nowadays writing style, but it just does kind of feel bad because I think how good of a story One Piece ended up being, and it took its time, so I guess how much of this can we put on blame of Kishimoto, and how much of it can we put on the blame of people just not having goddamn patience, or what do you think?
Okay, can I weigh in a bit here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I agree with both of you here. He is definitely stuck in that 90s mindset, and the Oda interview where he was mentioning how One Piece would not have made it today just tells how ruthless Jump's mindset is here. You need to get everything out there day one. But in a way, he kind of did. In chapter 1, it was exposition dump in itself.
Yeah, I remember being almost too much exposition. You got to find that balance and not just drop everything. And if you're gonna drop it, it's got to be through story. It's kind of a show don't tell, right? Don't just have a Star Wars-esque fucking title crawl of here's all the exposition. Let us see that.
Oh my god. So yeah, I think that initial chapter was a turnoff to a lot of people because they were oh, it's going to be, he's not only trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle from Naruto, he's also trying to be a bit of a Hunter x Hunter here, and let's drop all the text here. Let's do all the things. Whereas by comparison, I know Thurman, you're going to shit on me in a minute, but the first chapter of Promised Neverland is the perfect example of how to do a
No, that's totally accurate. If Thurman shits on you, he's wrong.
Is how to do chapter 1 nowadays in Modern Jump. Regardless of anybody's opinions on what the Promised Neverland has become, it at least started off well enough. And with Samurai 8, I think we did our stream at chapter 12, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, 12, 13, 14, around there.
And I was vehemently, you can go back and watch that archive, I was vehemently defending it and saying, let it build up. And then by chapter 20-ish, I think I'm just I can't do this anymore. This is utter trash. This belongs in the bin.
Do we call it trash? Because I didn't read past the first 10 chapters.
No,
what do you think, Thurman?
I wouldn't say it was trash. He just couldn't do it fast enough. I think I'm gonna tell you exactly why I think he fell short. He fell short in one of the biggest things, characters. I think it took him too long to make likable characters.
He's always been hit or miss with his characters, though.
Oh my, yeah, his characters are.
He kept adding characters that we didn't care for. Like he should have focused, because the whole point where we got was, spoilers, 3, 2, 1. Whole point was that Hakimaru was supposed to gather like a bunch of allies to help him, find his, I would not find his samurai soul, but find the 7 keys and all this extra stuff like that, right? And so they went on this journey to find all his 7 samurai, all his samurai, but it was just like the characters, he didn't focus on the characters that we liked. And then at the same time, Kishimoto was focusing too much on Hakimaru's and Anne's relationship, which is fine, but it was too much.
That is kind of like one of the points. Like they had to bond to kind of,
but
utilize the powers. Kind of. I said, I dropped around 20.
My issue was it felt. I wouldn't say it felt forced. It just felt out of place.
I can actually view where I fucking dropped it because I got the Shonen Jump app.
Like it didn't feel right. Like it felt like Kishimoto was trying to force it too much instead of like
20 fucking 4.
Like let's take Killua and Gon's friendship for example.
Did I hear Killua and Gon? It proceeds to check back in.
When they first met, it was the relationship kind of built over time, right? They got to know each other during the hunter's exam. They went through many trials together, to complete the hunter exam. And then it got to the point to where Gon was like, all right, I'm going to save this nigga because he's like, I consider him a friend. And we see the moments where Killua was like, I really want Gon as a friend. He's my first friend that I've met, from being an assassin. I can truly be himself, myself around him, blah, 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 right? So their whole friendship was built upon the hunter exam, right? So it felt natural. It kind of like progressed through the arc.
Yeah, and the hunter exam arc in and of itself, just to give context here, the hunter exam goes from like volumes like 1 to 5-ish, and we're talking like early in volume 5, right, is where they're like getting to the final tournaments where Killua goes rogue and shit, and like that's like 4.5 volumes. That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm. So and then but with this and shit, it was just kind of like an off and on thing, right? So they had one point where Hakimaru and Anne were at a dispute, and then they got and they worked it out, and then we had another issues to where like Anne was like, oh no, you remind me of my brother, and that's why I want to protect you and shit like that, blah 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 blah. But it was just like, okay, you kind of like, we just got someone new who was added to be one of your samurais, and then like we had a whole arc about how a kid who was supposed to be a samurai wasn't a samurai because he got betrayed. It just didn't feel structured. Like I feel like Kishimoto was just trying to throw things out instead of having like a structured arc. Like
the motherfucker was like the most captivated I was during this series was that battle royale, which should have been more flushed out than what the 2 chapters it was.
Like the battle royale we had was fun because I liked the character who was portrayed. I liked that. Like I thought I felt bad for him. Like Kishimoto made me feel bad for the character, but it was just like after that it kind of felt stagnant. Like you can kind of tell if you read a lot of series that when a series, especially like in manga form, is getting kind of stagnant and the author doesn't know where they're going. Because after they left the planet, which they stayed too long in, I mentioned, it felt like they had like no clear direction of where they wanted to go. Like the next arc didn't even feel like an arc. It was just like, oh, okay, we're going to this planet, then we're going to this planet, then we're going to this planet. Like even like a series like Eden Zero, made by Hiro Mashima and Kodansha, does is good because each arc feels new.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not the biggest fairy tale fan. I've been like kind of keeping up with Eden Zero because my friend Andy really likes it. He's a big fairy tale guy, like unironically. It's interesting. It keeps me interested. It's got unique premises. I like the characters.
Yeah. I'm just like
Kishimoto, like pieces of it. I'm not a big fucking fairy tale fan by any stretch of the means.
But here's some interesting thing, right? Like, you gotta like the characters. And, like,
yeah,
as Thurman kind of pointed out earlier, Kishimoto's characters are not the strong point at all. He writes very one-dimensional characters. Like, they don't feel like real people, almost ever. And, like, so in Fairy Tail, like, there's a lot of problems, but I like the characters. They're likable. I like being around them. I I like watching their antics, you know, and it just reminds me. I think I had a joke with Thurman a long time ago about like how each character feels like they're in Naruto. They feel like they're in like a Shakespearean play. Like they talk like they're like trying to come up with like the edgiest fucking teenager quote. Like it's like a subreddit. I'm 14 and this is deep. Specifically when Uchihas are talking, it's very like the darkness inside of me dwells. It's just like that's not how people speak.
Boy, shut up.
People don't talk like that. And I didn't read enough of Samurai 8 to really get the vibe of if he fixed that or not.
Itachi is a perfect character. Fuck you.
Is he a good character? I have no idea.
What gets me is that most of the characters are just forgettable. Like,
yep.
Even Hakumaru himself wasn't that interesting. Like the Samurai 8, like because keep in mind this is only one portion of the series I didn't like. It was just like the characters didn't feel like good,
and they probably blend together, and you're like, "Who's who?"
Yeah,
and,
there were some good moments, but it felt like he kept adding new characters, not fleshing them out very well. Like Anne was just meh, Hakumaru was meh, his master Durama was like meh. Like it was just like he didn't really know how to uniquely fix anything. And one thing that I said before, and many things, is like. One of the reasons why I respect Gintama authors so much, Sorachi, is because, for those of you who don't know, and I rep this, Gintama, when it first came out, was on the verge of being axed. Like, keep in mind, this is the 2000s, mind you, right? So it was on the verge of getting axed. But what I respect about it was that he changed up his flow, he changed up his writing style a little bit, and then it lasted as long as it did. And that was one of the most well-known and one of the best-selling manga Jump has ever had, right? So it's just like it felt like Kishimoto was hanging on to this old thread he had with Naruto, and it was just like, yeah, it worked in the '90s for sure, but I mean, times has changed now, and it goes back to what you were saying, Red, about how like either his fault or Jump's fault or like our generation now's fault. I wouldn't say it's his fault at all. It's 50-50, right? I think there's a part to it that you understand. Like if you're an author who has been writing manga since the beginning of time, right? Like this is like, I wouldn't say he's like Toriyama, like Araki, making manga in the 80s and shit, but he's been around for a few decades, right? He's well known.
He's one of the OGs for sure.
Yeah, if they ever make a manga Hall of Fame, he's definitely getting his name in there, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't take away Naruto's credit for what it's done for the shonen genre in general, despite your hate or love for it, right?
It did good things and bad things, which I'll detail more later, but yeah.
Yeah, but my thing is that if you're that legendary of an author, you're going to have to realize that, oh shit, the audiences that I grew up with, that my series was targeted for, is probably
different audience.
Yeah, old, probably passed away, maybe has kids of their own. So if I'm making a new series, right, you got to be smart and be like, okay, if I'm making this new series, I'm going to have to change things up a bit to captivate a new audience that my old audience probably would be not used to.
Thank you, Thurman.
It felt like he was over relying on the art, like because the art was so extra. I'm like, wow, look how weird and interesting that looks. But like, the best series,
art itself was jarring. It was so different.
Yeah,
too.
yeah, and like. It kind of felt to me like I'm not going to name names, obviously, because I don't want to be rude, but there was a guy on the One Piece subreddit who was putting out, like, some art, and it looked really good, but the style was, like, so, I'm just using this as an example, the style was so weird and, like, different that it didn't feel like it naturally formed, like, oh, this is just a cool style I came upon. It felt like he sat down and he was like, how can I make a really unique, different style that makes my art stand out? So it felt kind of manufactured, like a manufactured creativity. And that's how I felt about Samurai 8 when I was reading it. It was like the art and like the concepts were really interesting, but it didn't feel like it was like he came up with a good story that the concept worked with. It felt like he came up with a concept and he was like, that would look cool. How do I wrap a story around it so I can just make shit look cool?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's basically what it was. Like, and don't get me started on the story. Like, the story was... I don't even mind the story.
What story? What fucking story?
I don't mind the story that much. I'm gonna be real. Like, I'd be a hypocrite if I fucking, said, like, the story, right? Because, I'm shonen trash. I will fucking enjoy a shitty-ass story like the characters, Like, it's whatever. But it's just like... He relied on what's that shit called? Not a MacGuffin, right? That was what you said it was a writing. What's that writing thing called?
Deus Ex
Like
Machina? Well, it depends on what you're talking about. MacGuffins are
like the seven keys thing.
Oh yeah, that's MacGuffins. Like Dragon Balls, yeah.
Yeah, so he relied on MacGuffin, which was, I don't know if you would call the Hokage plot a MacGuffin or not.
No. Hokage is not a MacGuffin. So MacGuffins are like
The
magical
Jinchuriki
items that
would
you
be
have
more.
to collect.
The Jinchuriki
so
specifically, during the Akatsuki pain bullshit arc, that would be more of the MacGuffin.
But I wasn't even as mad about the Jinchuriki. I thought was done well because that was
exactly
set up for a while. That was established, and it made sense naturally, like in the story. MacGuffins are bad when you open the story. Because if I remember correctly from this manga, you opened it up and it was immediately MacGuffins, and then
it fucking was.
And the other bad example that I think of with MacGuffins is Ruby Volume 4, where you'd never heard of these MacGuffins in your entire goddamn life, and all of a sudden Crow's just by the way, there's these 4 things, real important,
hidden
don't
under
question
all
why.
of the academies. You will find out in 2 volumes.
Mm-hmm. And that backstory was good, but still, you can't just out of nowhere MacGuffins. They have to make sense in your world. But yeah,
exactly.
Back to what you were saying, Thurman, or David.
At least the MacGuffins started to seem to make a bit more sense as the story progressed. But
I still think it's a bad mistake to just drop them at chapter 1. Yeah,
you don't drop that chapter 1.
That's what he did. He dropped
that shit's so dumb. And
He's
before someone says, "Oh, Dragon Ball," I'm guessing Dragon Ball did that too.
I helicopter my massive dick of exposition.
But hold on. Before someone says, "Oh, Dragon Ball did that shit too," yeah, and Dragon Ball's just okay. Dragon Ball came out when the standards were lower, friends.
But Dragon Ball made itself known to be almost this kind of shitty
comedy, so that's okay. Yeah.
Right. It started off as a comedy, almost playing on bullshit in action martial arts movies, kind of doing this play on the shonen trash even at the time. Mm. But as it progressed, it became what it set out to mock.
Go ahead, Thurman.
But even then, it was just the Dragon Balls were still important. Because you can't even say that because each arc, the Dragon Balls had something to do with it. Each arc, the Dragon Balls were mentioned in some way, shape, or form. And I dare someone try to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Saiyan Sagas, they're used to revive Goku. Cell Saga, they're used to revive everyone who was killed. Well, Namek, technically. They're used to revive everyone that was killed by Frieza, to transfer everyone to... the whole point
they were used in clever ways, too. I remember revive everyone that Frieza killed, and yeah.
Yeah, the Buu Saga used the Dragon Balls. Hell, even Super uses the Dragon Ball. Super Dragon Ball. So it's just if there can't be a MacGuffin, well, it can't be a negative.
It's still kind of a MacGuffin, but you can have well-used MacGuffins.
Yeah. So people can't mock you, Red. So well, Dragon Ball does it too because no, Dragon Ball actually still uses the Dragon Balls.
Right. So what happened with the MacGuffins in Samurai 8? I don't even fucking know.
Kishimoto just dropped them.
Are you kidding me? So what happens now? Because is the story in a place where it can wrap up in a chapter or 2 or however many more there are?
It's gonna have to because now basically Hakimaru has ascended. Basically.
Oh jeez, ascended.
He's basically ascended. So now what they're trying to do is just wrap it up. Because once he got captured, I knew I knew it was because
he went full fucking end of Naruto. You're a god now.
Yeah,
oh boy,
it was clearly
Kishimoto doesn't have any other ways to end a series apparently.
Well, I mean, in his defense here, he could have flown this series in a more natural way if he was given more time. I kind of wish he could transfer it over to V-Jump.
Fucking 40-something chapters, right? I imagine the decision to cancel it was made in the last 5-ish chapters, right?
Yeah, most likely, because that's what it was leading towards.
When did it, because as someone who was reading it, Thurman, there's because Thurman, or David and I as Bleach fans can attest to this, there's typically a point where, you can feel that they put on the gas pedal, right? Was there a point where it started being shit's moving weirdly fast right now,
Yeah, it was. It actually happened when he got captured. When he got captured, that's when I knew, okay, it's gone.
When and what chapter-ish was that? How many chapters ago?
That was maybe 2 or 3 chapters ago, maybe.
I wonder then. Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to think of like other series. So like, let's say, because what chapter is it gonna end on? 40 what?
43 maybe. Maybe.
So let's say
I
40
believe.
chapters in other series. Like, what does 40 chapters get you up to, right? So in Hunter x Hunter, like, I would assume that's around the end point of the Hunter exam. So the entirety of the Hunter exam, and there's catching moments for me. There was a catching moment already there, and that was Killua ripping the fucker's heart out, and just placing it back in his hand. One Piece, I don't know where that would have gotten you to, chapter 40.
You said Arlong Park.
I would hope it'd be at Arlong. Yeah, let me actually check. Hold on. One Piece, chapter 40. So that would bring us to chapter 40, Usopp. Hold on.
Okay, here, let me actually check. Bleach.
No, so chapter 4, yeah, we still would have only been at the fucking Usopp arc. See, One Piece really did fucking start off slow. I'll be honest. That's wild. We're just at the Usopp Island in chapter 40. Wow.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, One Piece, man. Oda's not lying when he says it. One Piece wouldn't have survived. What did Bleach get to?
Oh my god.
40?
That's what I'm actually looking at right now.
Yeah.
Because so my question for you two is, right, now that Kishimoto's like, what do you think? Because I still want to talk about what Red was saying about how like the changing with the times thing, because I talked about Kishimoto's side, but now I think I want to switch over this discussion to the generation side, right? Because I truly believe that if Kishimoto wanted to better himself, he should have at least looked at what because he has an advantage as someone who's
it was when
Chad and Orihime were activating their powers, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He was because Kishimoto has an advantage as being older. He can go in, read a Jump magazine, and look what's popular now, and be like, oh, and not really so much as like, take advice, but sort of see what the kids are seeing what's popular nowadays. Like My Academia, Black Clover, Promised Neverland, We Never Learned, Jujutsu Kaisen. Like he should look at series like these and be like, okay, they started off differently from how this is how the times are changing from how I was writing. So if he was like if he wanted to, be that type of author, he could be like and kind of evolve. He should have been like, okay, well, Kishi no Yaiba, Demon Slayer started off this way, and people are loving it, and shit like that.
Mm.
But I think he was kind of stubborn, and he was just like, well, no, I made Naruto, so my writing's perfectly fine. And right, like,
I think he does give me that vibe. I'll be honest.
Every time I've read an interview with Kishimoto, he has come off as a completely arrogant prick.
I don't want to go that far, David. Like, I don't want to be a douche about it, but like, my favorite interview ever is I love telling this story. There's an interview with my favorite author, Togashi, or as we call him in this household, Togashi. Come on, Thurman, laugh at that. That was originally your joke.
Togashi.
Thank you, Togashi. We're bringing it back. But so Togashi and Kishimoto, it was a joint interview. They both sat down, and fucking, there's a great scene where they're talking about how that scene. I don't know what the fuck. Great line where they're asked how they develop characters. Togashi's talking about how like, oh well, I sit down and I have this like, list of questions that I ask myself about this character, like what would they do in this situation, what would they do in this situation, so I can get a full range of like how they would act in every situation. And then fucking Kishimoto's like, oh, I have a character like that. It's Choji. He gets mad when people call him fat. and then Togashi straight, even that's hilarious because that's dumb as fuck, right? And then Togashi does not take it sitting down. He's like, no, bro, like that's not good enough. You gotta ask more questions than that. I was dead.
Yeah. And it was just like, cause I mean, to be fair, his head is being gassed up by his fans and even by Oda, because Oda considered him a rival. So if one of the top heads is like, yeah, he's my rival, you're gonna get a big head. So I'm not blaming him for that, but I'm just saying, like, come on, man, like you have to realize that your target audience was like in the 90s. Like Naruto was like 97, bro. Like most 90s kids right now are at least like maybe 30. Like early 30s, late 20s.
I get a lot of credit for making. I think in Naruto, if I was going through pros and cons, I never, like, most of the characters were meh, but like I thought he made one hell of a power system. I loved the Naruto power system. It's exactly what I like in a power system. It's easy to understand. There's a lot of ways to expand upon it. I loved his combat, but other than really the power system, the fights, the combat, I really don't know what else was good at looking back at Naruto.
And it was just like, okay. Go ahead, David.
I mean, for Naruto, yeah, its power system was amazing. It really it was more of the what I call shut your brain off shonen, kind of like your Dragon Balls, your Black Clovers, your fucking fairy tales. You just shut your brain off, you enjoy it, and then you move on to your next series.
There's something like distinct about a Naruto fight. Like when you watch it, when you read it, like they fight very differently than any other anime, and I like how he was able to capture that. Like their fighting style was very unique.
I'm just here going through Viz's page for Weekly Shonen Jump, and you can see they did play a little bit more favoritism towards them.
Oh, they tried their hardest. They were getting fucking YouTubers to do sponsorships for him and shit. The King of Lightning just like 2 weeks ago was doing one.
Yeah,
so they did try their best to make this a thing. They tried desperately to make this a thing. But if you look at, I'm sorry, but Guardian of the Witch, it's probably going to get axed.
It's so funny because like it's like Kishimoto's new series. Holy fuck! They got all the fucking like funding and all the advertisement, and then like who? It's like that meme. Who wins? New series from Kishimoto or Undead Unluck? Just made some SJWs mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
here, the average chapter that things end at in modern Shonen Jump. I'm looking here right over by Boys Over Flowers season 2, but like Tokyo Shinobi Squad, Beast Children, Double Taisai, Unikamo Let's Loose. They all ended around the same time, and they're in the 27s, 36s. Last Sayuki, 23.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Kishimoto got lucky because honestly, you can tell that for a fact that they tried to hang on to the series as much as
they
possible.
Gassed him 100%. Because any other series it would have been axed like 25ish, but they're like, all right, you get 20 more to try.
Yeah, because
we're going to give you 3 volumes.
Yeah, they threw him a bone too. That's crazy. They actually threw him a bone. If it was any other series, by like chapter 25, it would have been on the chopping block.
Right.
What we call that chapter 20 the end game. If a series doesn't do well,
that's how we decide here. Like, if we want to review something, we wait till it hits chapter 20. Except for fucking Burn the Witch, because it's Kubo and we love him.
Yeah, we will play favorites. We will play favorites here.
Oh, yeah, we're not afraid to play favorites. Togashi could shit on a piece of paper and have like his child smeared around, and I'd read it.
Yeah, so they tried it. So back to what you were saying, Red. Is it the other side of the equation? Now, when it comes to fans, I do believe that because it's hard to say because the fans were hyping it up just because it was Kishimoto's name anyway. So I can't really blame the fans regardless because it was getting hype just from the sheer fact that Kishimoto was making it, and the Naruto fans were eating it up. They were just like, shit. Because I also believe that I have no evidence to support this, but I want to say maybe even Boruto kind of like was one of the main reasons why I didn't really get off the feet because people were still going off of that, right? Because I don't know does he still write for Boruto? I don't know if he does or not, but I think people were still because regardless of what you think of Boruto is still a hype series even though it's monthly. So I think people because not really people talked about Samurai 8 that much, like. Even for a Kishimoto series, like you probably get maybe like a few posts, and it was mostly in like the debating community who like power systems or like, yeah, Kishimoto's new series is gonna solo One Piece and Dragon Ball Z because they can destroy planets. Like that's like I shit you not. That's what's one of the main reasons why motherfuckers were loving it so fucking much. Because Naruto fans love to I don't know what it is, but they love for Kishimoto's characters to be strong as fuck, and they're just like, yeah, finally a series that Kishimoto's making that we're gonna solo ball. Like, okay, bro, relax. Focus on the actual writing instead of powers, please. Right. So we got
this
that.
coming from a motherfucker who literally sits and debates power systems.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah. And that's fun. But here's the thing, right? It's just like, okay.
We ain't King of Lightning though. We don't think that it like means everything in the series.
Yeah.
This man that was like
power system.
Quick question. Toriko, yay nay?
I have not read it.
Okay,
but
yeah,
I heard like
King of Lightning fucking loved Toriko, and like I couldn't get into it, but like I remember motherfuckers were like stopping the rotation of the planet by like fucking putting their foot down and shit.
from what I've gathered, Toriko was a more well written Dragon Ball Z. Like
No, yeah.
good powers, but over exaggerated like fights and shit.
I don't mind. I
Which is
don't
fine.
mind that. It can be done well, like Chainsaw Man. But anyway, back on topic.
Yeah, so I can't really blame the viewers for this because most of the fan base of Samurai 8 was mostly Kishimoto fanboys, and that's fine. But you can only survive off of your name alone for so long. Because one of our biggest issues when me and David first talked about Samurai 8 is that even if it flops, Jump is gonna chew it out because it's Kishimoto. But it was proven that no, if you can't bring the big bucks,
sales truly mean everything.
Like if you can't bring the big bucks, you're gone. And I'm kind of happy about that because like I think he, of course, but clearly the fans have spoken. It didn't live up to Kishimoto's reputation, and I think again that if Kishimoto wanted to survive, he should have put down his ego hat and been like, shit, I gotta get with the times and realize what people are liking nowadays and adapt to that. So writing, so you don't have to give up your writing style entirely, but at least adapt. Because it's not 1997 anymore. It's 2020. People are looking for, I wouldn't say more complex series, but something more than just the I want to be Hokage. And I say that being a Black Clover fan, but I mean shit.
I want to be the Wizard King.
But Black Clover's been able to make it work. And
I gotta give you fucking credit, Thurman. Like Black Clover has worked. It was the other series that was hyped this much, and it is. Again, in that shut your brain off shonen category, but it fucking worked because it's actually entertaining to watch.
And what's crazy...
And this is coming from a motherfucker who's shit on it the entire time we reviewed it on the channel.
And what's crazy about all that is that Black Clover, the reason why Black Clover and why I feel like Samurai 8 didn't succeed is where Black Clover didn't try to hide the fact that it was a shonen. It was just like, okay, Tabata, because keep in mind, Tabata wrote Hungry Joker, which was pretty good.
Phenomenal.
And he was like, okay, Tabata was like, okay, I have this series. It's going to be shonen-y, and he even said this in interviews. Like, the reason why Black Clover is as fast as it is because he was scared his Hungry Joker was too slow. Like, legitimately, he said the reason why I made Black Clover as fast as it is because my first series, Hungry Joker, was too slow, and people didn't like it.
Did he actually say that in like another comment?
Yeah, he said it in an interview. He said it was. He said my other series was too slow, so I picked up a little bit.
Brad, I gotta interrupt this. They just dropped Bleach Abridged, episode
27. I saw it dropped. I didn't watch it yet. I'm
I'm
excited, man. It's been a while for new Bleach Abridged. Anyway, say what you're saying though, Dave or Thurman.
So basically, that Tabata kind of did what Kishimoto did, adapt to the times. He felt like the reason why his series got axed was because it's too slow. So he picked up the pace of Black Clover, and it worked. And let's be honest, and we did this video before, in today's Jump, you're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit with certain series. Like, I don't know, would you consider My Hero Academia fast early on? Like,
so what My Hero Academia does well is establishing its premise immediately. Like, so well. Like, within, like, chapter 1, you have Deku's backstory, which sucked me in immediately. You have the concept of like, oh hey, he's the number one hero. Lol, JK. I mean, he is, but like, and then it's like, actually though, like he's he's slowly losing his power. He's got to pick a new person quick. It's Deku. Oh my god. And then right as chapter 1 ends, it's like, by the way, you got to master this power real quick because society's gonna collapse. That's such a good hook. That got me, speaking as someone who was like, ooh, this is slow when I was getting into One Piece. And even Hunter x Hunter, I think, is pretty slow in the beginning. That was one hell of a hook. And so I think he pulled The Promised Neverland, or maybe even The Fullmetal Alchemist, not the manga, but the anime, where, like, first thing you see is, like, some hooking shit. Promised Neverland, dead child at the end. Fullmetal Alchemist, oh shit, they tried to revive their mother and they made a monstrosity. And then once they got that hook, they can take their time expanding it,
Yep.
Yeah, and hopefully he can. So where does this lead to Kishimoto now? I don't know, but hopefully he can pick up the pace here with this because, I wasn't the biggest fan of.
Pick up the pace, so isn't it fucking done?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm talking about like his next works if he does it. But like,
it might be done. I think he'll stick to one shots.
Well, I mean, he has a chance, but
No,
I
not
do
done
kind of
not done like because he like not by his choice. I think he might just be like, all right, I'm gonna just rest for the rest of my life. I think he might just be like, maybe I'll write a one shot here or there. I think this might be his last like attempt at a long running.
Do you think he jumped into?
I mean, didn't he even say like he didn't even want this to be long running? He wanted to be a mid range series.
True,
Like
which makes me wonder like if this was axed or genuine, just like I'm done here. I mean, I haven't seen the end. Is it obviously axed?
Yeah, it's actually poor sales.
Maybe he was thinking like 100 chapters or something.
Yeah, I think it would be more of the 100 chapters range. He was saying it was going to try and be, if I remember right, it was like your Full Metal Alchemist level. Fucking.
Oh, like one of like that kind of size. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, final thoughts, guys.
Now I guess the final question I have for you two is there any do you have any final words for Kishimoto as a whole? What do you think he should be doing now that he's serious?
My final words for Kishimoto,
Getting this
as if he'd see them, but I respect him. You know, I mean, like he did a lot of good stuff. I have a lot of good memories of Naruto. I think the places he succeeded was his series had one hell of an aesthetic, and what I mean by aesthetic is like when you can pick up a series and you can feel that world, right? Like Naruto had a good feel to it. Like when you read it, the world had a good feel. The character's design had a good feel. The combat had a good feel, and it was distinctly, uniquely Naruto. What he failed at, in my opinion, was plot and characters, which is pretty important. But you know, I appreciate him. It was a fun watch while I was a kid. I think he deserves all the respect he gets, and I don't know. I hope he. If I was him, I mean, I don't know if he knows this, but I think, and obviously, you know, all opinions are subjective, but, like, if I could, like, dream Kishimoto for me is he goes to, like, some fucking workshops and works on his character writing. Because, like, I've just never been very attached to any of his characters. That's the main problem with me, usually. So, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to like Samurai. It was picking up to the point. I didn't like the Battle Royale arc, but it just didn't clear. So my advice to him is just go back, you know, go back to your roots, you know, focus on your strengths and try to increase your weaknesses. Like go back, just like I said in the video, look at what's popular now. Look at series like Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, We Never Learned, Black Clover, My Hero Academia, all the above. What's making Jump money now? Look at it and look at Samurai 8 and feel where you did wrong, right? There's nothing wrong with using other people's series as what's the word I'm looking for? As a reference, right?
Right.
People have been doing it for years, right?
As long as you're not like copy pasting, obviously.
Yeah, like people.
And there are plenty of people that do that.
Yeah. What was it? Was it like Gene Simmons' son that like copied Bleach?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that? That was a big story. Like he wrote like a fucking webcomic, or I think it was him. Someone wrote a webcomic that was like a celebrity's like son, and like. He like word for like he had like a character that was like Kenpachi, but he had white hair instead of black. It was like crazy. And then like someone tweeted Kubo about it, like, "Hey, how do you feel about this?" Back when he had a Twitter, and he was like, "I'm just more concerned that Gene Simmons' son is writing a webcomic." Kubo took it in stride.
Nick Simmons.
Yeah, you found it?
Incarnate was the name of it.
Yep. Literally, like look at the side by sides, like straight up copying. It was wild.
So because I mean, look at Oda. Like, people have been saying whether for their own extension author, there would be no right. Like, there's nothing wrong with taking references and doing that, because even the most greatest of authors need some inspiration from time to time. Because I believe, didn't Kubo get help from Akira Toriyama? Right, he got help from one of the greats. So
Kubo got help from it was Akira Toriyama. You're right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, think about it like this. Kishimoto needs to, if he does decide to take another shot at writing manga, which he has more than right to do. He's talented for what his medium is. Or maybe, he's like, fuck Jump, I'm going to Kodansha. You never know. Shit.
I don't know. They might own him.
They might literally own his soul.
I guarantee you that Samurai would have survived in Kodansha.
Yeah.
Because they're more lenient. But I mean, I'm pretty sure they have some rules, but it's.
I have a feeling he's probably signed his life off to fucking Shonen Jump.
I mean, shit. He's getting that paycheck every time they make a new Naruto game, or every time Naruto's included.
No, he's doing fine.
Like,
So,
literally, this motherfucker is getting bank.
So, Dave, I want your final thoughts, because I think I've said enough. I think he just needs to take a references and go back to the shop, write, brainstorm, and come back.
If I give any advice to the great Kishimoto, praise be to Naruto for being a starter pack for many. I really, really just want to say, stop trying to keep that same mindset you had when you were a young author. You have to adapt, because if you do not adapt, this is the outcome nowadays. And it's not bad that you want to continue down this place of like fucking, I want 1 million characters, I want them all to have some impact. Make them likable. Make me give a fuck about your Hachimarus. Make me give a fuck about your Ans. Make me give a fuck about these characters. Otherwise, you're just gonna lose everything. Like, Thurman, you have emotional attachment to almost every character in Black Clover, right?
Yep.
Because they're not one-dimensional.
No matter how much the haters try to say they aren't.
I mean, Asta's kind of one-dimensional in the beginning, and then he fleshes himself out. But that's neither here nor there. Every character has to have its own development arc. Like, you can start them off as these hollow husks of characters, but you can't go down the Promised Neverland route either of like, I'm going to shot my goal. I'm going to go do the thing. I'm going to go kill all the demons. No, wait, I want to save the demons. No, I want to... I'm sorry. I had to go there.
No, I get it.
I'm loving this arc because it's making things happen that should have happened 20, 30 fucking chapters ago. But, my God, it took forever. And it feels like that same dragging pace has been here throughout the entirety of Samurai 8. And you can't have that, especially when you're trying to establish a massive fucking universe. He's not just doing one world, he's doing this entire planetary system. And it's like, I'm going to go here, and then from what you were saying is I dropped it before this happened, he's like, I'm going to go play Mass Effect on this planet, and this planet, and this planet, and this planet, and this planet. You can't fucking do that. Make me care about the fucking planets, make me care about the inhabitants of these fucking worlds. Make everything matter. Otherwise, what's the point of me reading this fucking series?
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
All right.
Any last thought?
Wrapping it up. Peace for me.
Peace.
Peace.